Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Venus and today I'm going over books that I read in the month of December. This is my first wrap up recent reads of 2025 and I have I think about 10 books to talk about. There's some DNFs in here as well. And as usual, I always start with I start with my DNFs and then go from my least favorite to my favorite book of the month. December, for some reason, feels like a very, very long time ago. January is taking forever to get through, but I haven't done a recent reads in a while. I want to say probably since September. So I'm not going to go back over all of the books that I've read since then, but I will recap books that I read in December. So let's start with the DNFs. The first DNF was Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner. This is, I thought, a mystery thriller book about an American secret agent spy type character who infiltrates some French situation. I don't know. I watched somebody's review about it and they made it seem like it was so good. I love anything that has spies, assassins, secret agent thrillers. Those are my favorite. And I started reading this and it starts off with, I guess it's like an introduction or like a prologue where the main character is reading emails, I think, from this man. And the whole, I don't know, 10, 15 pages was about Neanderthals. And I was like, what is this? It felt like I was reading a history book. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get through the prologue. We'll see where it goes. And then the first chapter starts and we get to know a little bit about this American woman. I was bored. I was so bored. And then the Neanderthal thread just kept coming up and I was like, no, I literally do not care about Neanderthals. So I was like, no, I can't. I DNF'd this. And the sad thing is I started reading this the same day that I bought it from Barnes and Noble, and I quickly had to put it on Pango. Thankfully, I sold it very quickly because apparently a lot of people want to read this, but it was not for me. I forgot to mention there are a few Christmas books in here because I read a lot of Christmas romance books in December. So if you're not interested in anything about Christmas anymore, feel free to skip ahead. The next DNF, the next few are Christmas books. So the first one is The Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. This is part of the Dream Harbor series with Pumpkin Spice Cafe and the Cinnamon Bun Bookshop or something like that. This is the third book. I hated it. The main character was so irritating. So she was mentioned in the end, kind of at the end of the second book. She's from out of town and she came and bought the Christmas tree farm, which I think was an abandoned Christmas tree farm and it needed a lot of upkeep. She's very antisocial. She's really rude. And I don't mind rude characters, but it was unnecessary. It was irritating. And the main love interest was just allowing her to just say really ignorant things to him. And I said, I couldn't get through it. I wasn't feeling the Christmas cheer. So I quickly DNF'd that book as well. So next DNF, another Christmas book, Mistletoe Mischief by Cody Hall. This is the second book in the Falling in Mistletoe series. And I really didn't like this one at all. So I don't like romances that start off with the two main characters immediately having a one night stand or making out and not realizing who each other are. And so that happens in this book. The main female character is the voice behind a podcast, and her cousin is the face. So she is basically acting like she's hiding behind her cousin. So nobody knows that she's really the voice behind this podcast. Sorry, long-winded there. So travel agent or travel guide in this town that they have picked for their next podcast feature is obsessed with the face of this podcast and really has no idea that it's actually someone else that's behind the ideas and the voice and all that. So those are the two that end up hooking up when she finally comes to this city or town or whatever, and they quickly hook up, and then she has to act like she doesn't know who he is when they finally meet to talk about the podcast. Anyway, I couldn't stand it. I didn't enjoy it. I can't stand that angle in romance books, so I DNF'd it. And then the last Christmas romance I DNF'd was Christmas with a Crank by Courtney Walsh. I just didn't like it. Didn't really like the two main characters. This was a second chance romance when the two main characters liked each other or knew each other when they were younger. And one of them moved away, and I don't know. I DNF'd this pretty quick. I just couldn't get into it, so I'm sorry. If you don't realize by now, or if you're new here, I don't script my videos. So if I don't remember a book, I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to recall the events from the book, because this is a hobby and I just like talking about books like we're just two friends hanging out at a coffee shop. So there's not a lot, there's no scripting with my videos. So I honestly don't remember much about this book other than I didn't like it. And the next book that I DNF'd is a romance book, and it's very popular. It's Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This is the second book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and I keep seeing these covers all over the place. They're very cute. I've never read like a cowboy romance before, so I figured I would give it a try, and didn't really like it. This has the same kind of premise where two people have to eventually work together. They don't know that they're the other's next coworker or whatever, and a hookup happens in the beginning. And then when this female main character, who is an interior designer, comes to work at a Wyoming ranch, she's supposed to be helping, I think the male love interest name was West or something like that. And she shows up, and this is the same dude she hooked up with in a bar. And guess what? He's now your employer. And yeah, I mean, I got pretty far in this book. I think I got halfway through, and I realized that I saw where it was going. There was nothing that was going to change my 3-star rating on it, because the writing was just okay. The angstiness wasn't really there because you guys already hooked up. That's just not a premise or trope that I enjoy at all. So I DNF'd it. I'm sorry. I know this is a very popular series, but I just couldn't get into this one. And lastly, I DNF Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I got 400 pages into this, and I just realized that I don't like this series. I was extremely bored and did not care. I was like over 400 pages into this book, which is like a whole book, in any other reading experience. And I realized that I did not care for this world, for the writing, for the characters, for the magic system, for any of it. It was starting to become like homework, and I was really pushing myself to get through this because FOMO. Everyone loves Brandon Sanderson. This is like his work of art. It's epic. It's amazing. It's 5 stars. This whole series, the new last book in the first arc came out in December, and I did not enjoy this at all. Let's address the elephant in the room. Last year, I was so excited. I started a Discord channel. I wanted to do a read along for all of the books so that we could all talk about the last book that came out. And I quickly realized, reading Way of Kings last year, that I was not obsessed with these books or this series. I did not love that book that much. I think I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but honestly, it was more like a 3. The ending boosted it up a little bit because the ending was very exciting. But yeah, then I really dragged my feet on getting to the next book, and I stopped even talking about it in my Discord. So I do apologize if you were excited to kind of do a read along about that, and I just kind of ghosted you. So I am sorry. But the reason is because I did not like these books, and I have decided to completely DNF the whole series. I have no desire to ever pick it up again. I don't care what happens with these characters. I realize that my preference for long epic fantasy books are much more gritty, rated R. Joe Abercrombie, like, let him write a 1,000-page book series, and I'm here. I'm all invested. Or Robin Hobb, who's not really rated R, but just a much better writer than Brandon Sanderson. And yeah, this just felt very PG. There were things that were said in it that were corny as I don't know what. And I'm sorry. I'm not a fan. And now I have to unhaul these books that I've written all in. So hopefully someone won't mind that when I unhaul it or donate this series. I have realized that for Brandon Sanderson, I'm much more of a one book standalone fan. I'm not saying he's terrible, but I just haven't liked the series. I didn't really love Mistborn. I know that's blasphemy, but I tried to read the second book and I was bored. So, but I loved Elantris and Warbreaker. I love them. And I also liked the young adult, what is it called? Starsight. I really enjoyed that book. I haven't gone back and finished the series yet, but I was really enjoying that. So that's where I'll stick with him. But yeah, as of forever, Stormlight Archives, I will not be continuing with that series. And circling back to my Discord channel, I do plan on posting in it starting February 1st. Now that I've kind of gotten that out of my system, realizing that I just not a fan of Stormlight Archives, but my Discord has a whole bunch of other threads in it, buddy reads, music, you know, just food, like anything that I can talk about with my subscribers. I am going to start posting in it daily. If you're interested, the link is down below. It's free, of course, and just know that I won't be active in the Stormlight Archives thread. I may delete it because, I mean, unless you guys want to keep talking in it, which I think people just kind of disappeared after they realized I wasn't there. But so anyway, let's get to the books that I actually finished in the month of December. Okay, again, there are quite a few. There's like three Christmas books on this list. The first one is How My Neighbors Stole Christmas, and it's by Meghan Quinn. I gave this one 2.5 stars. Oh yeah. The writing was very cringy. I finished it. It was very long. It was just unnecessary long, almost 500 pages. I listened to the audiobook. I think that's probably what got me through. I was kind of multitasking and listening to it. And I normally really like Meghan Quinn's books. They typically make me laugh out loud. They're very funny and engaging and, you know, spicy. And this one, while I will say the Christmas vibes were definitely there because there was a lot of decorating. There's a Christmas competition that's going on with these two main characters. Story Taylor, which is the female, and her sister come to take care of their Aunt Cindy, who I believe she had a fall and she just needs some help getting around in her house. The aunt was actually very funny. I did like her character. The sister, I did not like at all. But they come to, you know, try to help their aunt. And while they're there, they somehow get involved in this like Christmas competition. And their neighbor that lives next to their aunt, what is his name? Cole used to like have a crush on Story when they were younger, and she left very abruptly, and he just and said some things that offended him, and he's been holding a grudge ever since then. So he has like a whole attitude towards her for a lot of this book. And then, you know, they talk, blah, blah, blah. It goes on from there. Oh, and they're competing against each other in this Christmas competition. And that part was fun. I think that's also why I kept reading it because, like I said, the Christmas vibes were definitely there. Just the romance was just not all that great, and I hated the way it ended. I don't know. I just didn't love this that much. So 2.5 stars. I feel like I'm sounding very grumpy, but I did like some of the books that I read in December. The next one is Cause and Effect, and this is by Piper Rayne, another Christmas book. This was fun. I gave it 3 stars. You know, it's not like amazing, but it was enjoyable. And in this book, we are following, what's his name? I don't know what his name is. It doesn't say. He's an army ranger and she's a baker. In the very beginning, she meets with like, I don't know if it's I think it might be like a fortune teller, who gives her like these clues to where she has to go back to this place. Well, I can't remember how she worded it, but it made her feel like her love, the love of her life, was across the country, and she had to go back to her ex to get back with him because this fortune teller felt like this was like going to be her one. And so it's during Christmas season, and she books a flight to go back. I think it's Chicago or somewhere like that. And she gets on a plane with the Army Ranger, and they immediately dislike each other. And there's a comedy of errors that happen where their flight is canceled. They need to both get a car to travel to, we'll say Chicago because I can't remember where. And of course, there's one rental car left. The baker girl, I can't remember her name, her card is declined. And the Army Ranger, because he's been in the Army for so long, his driver's license has expired. So, of course, they have to try to compromise to get this one car to get them to where they both need to be. So it's like a cross-country driving, close encounters romance. And it was cute. It had some Christmas vibes in it. There was some things that happened along the way, you know, some crazy little adventures that they got themselves into. that I had fun with. The only reason I didn't rate this higher is because the ending and the twist, there's like a twist in this, I didn't love, and when the twist happens, it changed the tone of the book. And I was like, oh, I don't like this that much. So it dropped the rating down because I was initially going to give this like a 4.5 because I was really having fun. And then the twist happens and I was bummed out. But overall, I think it's cute. If you're, looking for something to read next Christmas, I would put it on your list, but definitely get it as a library book. So 3 stars. So I think there's like one more Christmas book, but that's going to be higher up on the list. The next 3-star, which was really disappointing. I mean, I gave it 3 stars, but this was a 5-star prediction for me. So I was really bummed that it only ended up being a 3-star. So this is called A Simple Plan. It's by Scott Smith. This is a thriller book. I've seen this book as so many people's like favorite top 10 thriller of all time. And I couldn't wait to read it. And oh my gosh. So this is definitely a wild ride. I will say that. The characters, though, are insufferable. I think that's why my rating came down so much because, oh my gosh. So what is this book about? This is about 3 men, 2 brothers, and a brother's friend who find like $4 million in this plane, this like abandoned, crashed plane. This has very wintry vibes. So if you like the premise of this book, then this is a perfect time to read it. So it's a lot of snow. It's very cold. It's very gray. And the 2 brothers in this, so one of the brothers is, I think he's like a banker or an accountant. I, of course, don't remember. But he's like middle class. He's doing okay. He's married. I think they have a child or the wife's pregnant. Don't remember. But he's, just living his life, doing his thing. And then his brother is a hot mess. He's a hot mess. He's extremely overweight. He's just unhealthy. He drinks a lot. He has no job aspirations. Just a mess. And then of course, his best friend is pretty much the same, if not worse. So these 3 find this money and they come up with a simple plan. And of course, the brother who has no money and his friend who has no money, and they're both drunks, they don't know how to keep their mouths shut. So there becomes like this whole discourse between the characters, the brothers and the friend. And it's very entertaining. It felt very long. Yeah, it's like over 400 pages. It felt very long just because things that were happening were kind of dragged out, and you do get a lot of backstory about why the 2 brothers are so different and how they were raised. And I feel like the writing was good. It just was really dragging out. But you end up, I mean, I did, really disliking the brother, the crappy brother and his friend. I mean, like, really disliking. But then even the supposedly well-adjusted brother becomes kind of batshit crazy as well. So there's violence in this, I will say, a lot of violence. And overall, it's enjoyable, but there are just things that just dragged it down for me. I can see why a lot of people love this book. There's definitely all kinds of stuff happening in it, especially the violence, but there were just things in it that also were very convenient and unbelievable. And I kept questioning, like, there's no way that they would have gotten away with certain things that were happening. So, and then the I'll say the better brother's wife started getting on my nerves as well. So I'm trying to be very vague about this because it is definitely best going into it without very much except for what's on the cover or the backstory. But yeah, it was a bummer. I gave it 3 stars, like I said. Thought it would be a 5-star, but unfortunately it was not. The next 3-star book is Where I End, and it is by Sophie White, and this is a horror book. And it's very dark, a lot of body horror, and it takes place in Ireland. Very atmospheric, very gloomy, very dark vibes. And overall, it was okay. There was something about the tone of this book that kept me reading it because there was definitely in the beginning where I felt like I was going to DNF it. So if you don't know, I am a nurse. So parts of it were just very hard to read because this young girl, her mom is basically bedridden and she calls it the bed thing. And she has to take care of her and turn her and clean her and do all of these things to her. Basically, she's her caregiver, along with, I think it's her grandmother, who is just this ignorant, mean woman as well. Just everyone in this book is just terrible. And you slowly get bits and pieces of why this woman became the way that she is and what happened. And then the daughter is like a psychopath. Her thoughts are just crazy. And it's a very dark book. Please check. There's definitely triggers. And it was rough to get through. And I don't mind dark books at all. I think that what I didn't really enjoy about it and why I only gave this book 3 stars, because the ending was shocking, but the twist, or when you discover how and why this woman is the way she is, there's something in it that happens that's presented, and I can't say it what it is because I'll spoil it, but it is my least favorite trope in horror and mystery books. I genuinely cannot stand when authors use this strategy, I'll say, to do the big reveal at the end. And it really brought the book down for me. I was starting to see that it was coming towards the end. I was like, oh God, this is going to be this certain thing. I will, if you're interested, I'm going to put spoiler up here so I can say it because it's so hard to talk around it. So spoiler, if you ever want to read this book, don't skip ahead. So it was a twin sister, a twin sister that died, and the mom was going through postpartum depression, which I can understand that part of it. Twin sister died. She basically killed her. I don't want to say killed, but something happened and the twin sister died. I cannot stand when author uses twins in any aspect of a mystery, thriller, or horror book. I hate it. So that's why I gave it 3 stars. Otherwise, if it would have been something different, I probably would have gave it 4 stars because this is very dark. And no more spoilers. I'm not going to say anything else. It is very dark, lots of body horror, and I feel like it was well written. So 3 stars. And another 3-star book for me is Worst Case Scenario by TJ Newman. This was kind of a disappointment as well because I absolutely loved her first 2 books. I think Falling, is that the one when, whatever one is when a plane crashes into the water. That was my favorite. And then it was Drowning. Drowning was my favorite out of the 3 books that I've read. Then Falling. The only reason I didn't like that as much is because the motive behind the main plot of that book didn't love. And then this one, I'm giving 3 stars. I think this will probably be it's going to be my least favorite out of the 3, but it's still very entertaining. She's such a good thriller writer. If you like books that have anything to do with like planes, she used to be an airline stewardess, so she has that like background of like knowing all the crazy things that can happen on a plane. So in this book we are following quite a few characters. A pilot of a plane has a heart attack while he is flying a plane, and the plane crashes into a nuclear power plant in Minnesota, and it becomes ground zero. And you meet the fire department chief and the nuclear plant workers, and then you also meet just people that are going about their daily lives when this plane hits this nuclear power plant. So you're meeting the neighbors and kids that are in school, and then the children and wives and husbands of all of the people that have to try to rescue or stabilize the situation. So it's a very like heart-pounding, on the edge of your seat thriller. It actually made me tear up at the end because of something that happened. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I almost want to give this 3.5 stars because it was very heart-pounding. I mean, think about it. Like if a plane crashes into a nuclear plant, it's devastating because if they can't contain what is in this nuclear plant and it gets into the air or it gets into the water, I mean, it could be devastating for not only that town, but the world possibly. So she definitely took a doomsday approach for the plot line of this story. And yeah, I think I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I overall enjoyed it. So I remember now what brought it down a little bit is there's obviously a lot of like nuclear power plant, like almost science-y stuff to it, and that kind of bored me a little bit. So that's the only reason it brought it down. But otherwise, the characters I thought were really good. I loved how they all started to merge together. I liked how she took you into like, okay, well, this person was in school when this happened, and then this person was doing this, and then all of a sudden they start merging together. It was cool. So 3.5 stars for this one. All right, next up is Come With Me by Ronald Malfi, and this I gave 4 stars. This is the second book by this author that I've read, and I've loved them both so much. He is definitely becoming an auto-read author for me. Can't wait to read more of his books. This one takes place in December, and what's his name? So the main character is named Aaron, and his wife is murdered, and it's just a sad situation, and he's obviously going through a lot of grief. And as he's going through his wife's things, trying to pack stuff up, and he finds a receipt to a motel like hundreds of miles away from where they live. And he's like, wait a minute, what was she doing here? She never told me she went to this place. Or so it starts like, his brain starts wandering, like what happened, who or what, why did she go to this place? And he starts backtracking, and then a whole bunch of things unfold, and he finds out his wife was searching for something. That's all I'll say. And it's very, very good. I don't remember if this is classified as horror. Oh, it is classified as horror. I wouldn't call it horror. I feel like it was more of a thriller, like mystery. There wasn't like much horror in it, except for maybe, I guess if you want to say like the ending, there was something that happened that maybe would be classified as horror, but this is more of a thriller to me, thriller mystery, but very well written. The pacing was fantastic. Aaron, you go through his grief with, why did she go here? Because, initially it's like infidelity, like, his mind, you go with him through all of the thoughts that he's going through and trying to figure out what she was doing and why she was doing it, and the characters he meets along the way. And it was really, really good. I loved how it unfolded, and I thought the ending was very satisfying. Next up is The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year, and I gave this book 5 stars. I had such a great time reading this book. Obviously, it's another Christmas book. This one is a mashup between romance, mystery, possible murder mystery. You don't know. It was so much fun. So in this book, we are following Ethan and what is her name? Ethan and Maggie. And Ethan is like this like high profile thriller author, and Maggie is like a little cozy mystery author. And they work in the same, I guess, publishing office or whatever. And they are invited by Maggie's like favorite author of all time. Like think of like Agatha Christie inviting you to her English cottage for Christmas. And they're both invited, and Maggie can't stand Ethan. She hates him. So it's like, enemies to lovers trope there. And it's like this mysterious, like they both have no idea why they've been chosen to go to this author's amazing English. I don't even think it's a cottage. It's like a mansion. And so they get there, and then all of a sudden they are stuck in this house with the author's like family, and I think the lawyer's in there. I can't remember. There's all these random people that she invited to this mansion, and the bridges are out. I think there's a snowstorm. I can't remember. Bridges are out, phones are down. They have no way to connect to the outside world. And then the author goes missing. They can't find her. And they go on this crazy little journey in this house, and it was fun. I really, really loved it. I thought Ethan was hilarious. I laughed so many times because of some of the stuff that he said. Maggie is very like high strung, and she's funny too. And then the little romance between them was really enjoyable. So I love this. I smiled like the whole time I was reading it. It definitely had some Christmas vibes. I mean, you're in England as well, and it was fun. I definitely would read more from this author, and I would definitely put this on a Christmas recommendation book for sure, because like I said, had a great time with this one. And then my last 5-star read is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This is a reread for me. I don't even know at this point how many times I've reread this book. I typically start a Harry Potter reread every few years around Christmas time, before Christmas time, and so it still holds true. It really does. Still 5 stars. Definitely one of my favorite books series of all time. So that was my last read. Excuse me, my last 5-star read for December. So like I said, December just feels so long ago, but I definitely wanted to do a recent reads wrap up before I jumped into all the wonderful books that I've been reading this year. So as always, thank you guys for stopping by. Let me know down below, what was your favorite book in December, if you remember, probably not, or at least your favorite book from 2024. I have been reading some great books in January. I cannot wait to do my January wrap up, so stay tuned for that. And thank you guys for stopping by. See ya.